Good morning. I'm Larry Bolton, counsel to this project, among other things. And it's a real pleasure and honor for me today to introduce our first speaker, Vance Raye. I first met as Deputy Attorney General Vance Raye, and I believe it was 1976 when he was representing my department in some litigation. I worked with him subsequently when he was Governor Deukmejian's Legal Affairs Secretary. He was subsequently appointed to the Superior Court in the late 80s here in Sacramento, then in the 90s to the Court of Appeal, where he's currently the presiding justice for the 3rd District Court of Appeal. I think Justice Raye has a particularly unique perspective in that he has litigated representing state agencies. He has, as Legal Affairs Secretary, mediated disputes among state departments about information sharing, among other things, and then his many years on the court. He, in addition, a couple of years ago, was appointed by the Chief Justice to co-chair the Child Welfare Council, which just last year adopted a very strong policy statement encouraging information, data sharing, and interoperability. So again, it's a real honor and pleasure for me to introduce Honorable Vance Raye, Presiding Justice of the 3rd District Court of Appeals.
Thank you very much, Larry. I am very pleased to be here this morning, and absolutely delighted to be here, actually. I understand you had a wonderful session yesterday, and I'm happy with Justice Huffman, my colleague on the 4th District Court of Appeal. So I'm happy to be here today to help launch this very exciting effort that is underway to create a roadmap for information sharing among health and human services agencies throughout California. And all of this, of course, is made possible by the Interoperability Grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families, and that is a very good thing. Information sharing is not a new concept to me. Larry has given you a little bit of my resume. Years ago, I did indeed serve in the Attorney General's office, and for a while served on the executive staff there. And we worked on proposals to enhance information sharing among law enforcement agencies. Later, I served as Legal Affairs Secretary to Governor George Deukmejian, and one of my administrative responsibilities was to serve as liaison between the governor and the Office of Criminal Justice Planning. I don't know, some of you probably recognize that name. That's an office that no longer exists, but it did at the time. And it was an agency that provided grants to local criminal justice agencies and also to community agencies. And one of the current concerns we had when I performed that role, was the inability of computer systems to communicate with each other. Or, as we would rather crudely complain, my computer can't talk to your computer. And we gave grants to allow computers to talk with each other. Now, certainly our lingo is a little bit more sophisticated now as it relates to computers, but there was also a problem with getting people to talk to each other and the willingness of humans to share information on projects of mutual interest. It was frustrating then, as it is now, to work with siloed public agencies where data and information sharing was at best problematic, and sometimes it was non-existent. And there was no mechanism for state agencies to confer and consult and share information, even if they wanted to. 30 years after leaving the Attorney General's office, and thanks for reminding me, Larry, that it has been over 30 years. We're hitting up on 40 years. You are an old guy. Yes. 30 years after leaving the Attorney General's office, I'm glad that the tide is turning toward a more collaborative approach to resolving these deeply ingrained obstacles to information sharing among public agencies. I know the Stewards of Change organization is doing groundbreaking work on this at the national level. And in California, both the Blue Ribbon Commission on Children in Foster Care and the Child Welfare Council have made data exchange and information sharing for the benefit of children and youth in foster care a top priority. As I mentioned earlier, I know that you heard from my friend Richard Huffman chair of the Blue Ribbon Commission on Children in Foster Care yesterday, and he told you about the work of that commission. And I see Judge Stacy Bulwer-Urey is here, who's a member of that commission as well. But today I'd like to tell you a little bit about the work of the Child Welfare Council, and Judge Urey is also a member of that. You're a member of a lot of things, Judge. But in 2006, Governor Schwarzenegger signed into law AB 2216, which established the Child Welfare Council. And for the first time in state history, a formal organization brought together leaders from all three branches of our state government, along with child welfare experts, advocates, foster youth parents, and caregivers, to think critically about children and youth in the child welfare system. The goal was to better structure services and improve outcomes to California's struggling families and vulnerable children. The Council's vision is that every child in California will live in a safe, stable, permanent home, nurtured by healthy families with the capacity to meet the child's needs and support the child's well-being, and preparing the child for transition to adulthood and becoming a contributing member to society. We want to provide an effective, collaborative forum for the three branches of government, for foster youth and their families, and for key stakeholders to advocate for effective and promising strategies and adequate resources to improve outcomes for children, youth, and families involved with or at risk of involvement in the child welfare system. When the Child Welfare Council was established in 2006, the Blue Ribbon Commission in foster care had already been established. It was established in 2006, earlier in 2006, by Chief Justice Ronald George, to enhance the ability of the courts and the legal process to improve the safety, permanency, well-being, and fairness for children in foster care. When the Child Welfare Council first met in November 2007, the Blue Ribbon Commission was scheduled to issue its findings and recommendations in 2008. So when we were established, we saw an opportunity to work closely with the Blue Ribbon Commission, and that has become a reality. We make every effort to coordinate our efforts. A significant number of our members, I mentioned Judge Stacy Bulwer-Urey, are also members of the Blue Ribbon Commission. And we have come to similar conclusions about the challenges that face us. Our Chief Justice, Tani Cantil Sakaui, recently stated, and I'll quote her, "Among the greatest responsibilities of any judge are children who come to court as victims of child abuse or neglect. Dependents of the court become our solemn responsibility, and they must be assured every protection, opportunity, and due process afforded by law. We have the opportunity through our actions and in collaboration with child welfare agencies to lift up every child who comes before us." I know that resonates with many of you, particularly with Judge Nash, who you're going to hear from a little bit later on the dependency court. And it will not come as any great surprise to you that one of our first realizations on the Child Welfare Council was that we would not be able to see our vision become reality or our mission accomplished or the opportunity alluded to by Justice Cantil Sakaui being realized unless we began to grapple with the challenges of sharing data and information for the benefit of children and youth in the child welfare system. How can we possibly fulfill that solemn responsibility if we can't get some basic information about any child who comes before us? For example, how is the child doing in school? Is the child even attending school? Does the child have any learning challenges, any behavioral challenges, any mental health challenges? How about the child's health? Has he or she seen a doctor lately? If we can't get the answers to those questions, we simply cannot adequately serve the children in our care, nor can our partners in this challenge, the social workers, the educators, the healthcare providers, the mental health caregivers, and others who work with children and youth in the child welfare system. So early on, the Council established a standing committee on data linkages and information sharing. In 2012, the Council adopted an updated data standardization statement from the Data Linkages and Information Sharing Committee. The Council continued its efforts of maintaining and expanding its inventory of best practices website and collaborated with a number of organizations on these issues. This year, the committee plans to continue its work on promoting state policy on the importance of data integration and information sharing. And we're going to do this. Someone alluded to funding issues. We're doing this despite setbacks in the deployment of statewide case management systems as a result of the budget crisis. As I'm sure Justice Huffman mentioned yesterday, earlier this month, the Blue Ribbon Commission endorsed the Child Welfare Council's statement on information sharing, data standardization, and interoperability, and revised its recommendations on data and information exchange to be consistent with the Council's statement. Those revisions will be presented to the Judicial Council in August. We also got some help with this challenge earlier this year with the passage of the Uninterrupted Scholars Act, which amends the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act to allow child welfare agencies to access foster children and foster youth education records. This will help with educational stability and help to ensure that children are not having to repeat classes as a result of placement moves. So the work that you are embarking on, and I understand the broad scope of the work that you're embarking on, but the work that you're embarking on is essential to the health and well-being of the children and families of California. It will make a huge difference, and you should know that. And I applaud all of your efforts. I and my colleagues on the Judicial Branch and on the Child Welfare Council will be following your work very carefully. We look forward to participating wholeheartedly in this challenge to create systems that are better connected and able to share critical information about the people we serve. I noticed your program and some very intriguing topics. I actually wish that I could spend a little time here listening to you, but unfortunately I have work to do. I have an oral argument calendar that begins in just a few minutes, so I won't be able to stay. But I wish you the best, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today. Thank you.